Welcome to your Thrive Era podcast, the show for high achieving women who are done with burnout and ready to reclaim their time, energy, and joy. I'm Shannon Logan, mom, wife, coach, and entrepreneur for over a decade. I know what it's like to juggle it all and still feel like it's never enough. But everything changed once I developed my set protocol. A simple yet sustainable way to take back myself, my energy, and my time. If you're ready to break free from burnout and finally thrive, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Hey, Podcast Nation. I am so excited to introduce to this next episode of a Me versus Me Bettering Myself podcast with a really great friend of mine, Shannon Logan, who I've known in different aspects of life. I think probably going on 9 years. I met her when I just had my fourth baby. She owned a CrossFit gym that I joined and just really was a huge positive influence in my life to this day. We don't see each other all the time, but just staying connected, seeing Facebook posts, and really just being able to text her and just having that fellowship as a friend and just support system, I think on both ends has been so grateful. And she's been a huge impact. I thought she'd be ideal to do this next podcast and just kind of share her background and where she's at today. And I think it could just benefit us all to in the growth that we want for ourselves. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Shannon Logan.
Well, you are too kind. You are too kind. And if the world does not already know what a rock star, Miss Darla is a rock star. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe we've known each other nearly ten years. I mean, I figured when I was starting to think back to it, I was like, yeah, I think it was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I have seen this woman wrangle four kids. It is impressive. I've got one child, and I feel like my world is insane. I have watched
Let's hear
her.
it.
She had just had her fourth baby, and now she's got a couple of teenagers, and I've just watched you all grow in the last decade, and it's been nothing short than of impressive to say the least.
Well, thank
So.
you. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start signing for the rest of it. But you are too kind, and I think that energy just vibes off of each other. So thank you for being you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so as you mentioned, I opened a CrossFit gym back in 2014. I was 29 years old, and I had kind of an interesting story with it because it was a blessing. Some regards, saved my life because I hit a bottom, a really severe bottom at the exact same time. So to give you a little bit of background, I opened my business, I got divorced, and I stopped drinking literally at the exact same time. All of them happened simultaneously. And so anyone that's done one of those things knows how intense, overwhelming, stressful, emotionally stimulating, for lack of a better word, they are. And for me, that all happened at the same time. And I'm actually really grateful all three of those things happened at the same time because it made me really stop and take a look at who I was, who I wanted to be, and help me acknowledge even more that there is something much greater than myself out there in the world. And kind of put my hand back in God's hand, which was a huge blessing in my life, to say the least.
Amazing. I love that story because that's actually something that really changed the direction that I needed to go in when I took that concept in to heart and just said, and for all of you who are out there, that's actually what we consider is the third step in just giving it to something better, bigger than who we are. And the first one being just saying, I can't do it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's how I had lived. I was 29. I literally just turned 29 when all of this happened. And I had lived a lot life up until that point thinking that I should do it all on my own and have all the answers. And if something didn't work, it meant if something was not working, it just meant I had to work harder. I had to strive more, I had to grind harder, I had to push. And it's very common for me to basically try to shove a round peg into a square hole. And you can imagine the frustration, the stress, the anxiety. When I stopped drinking, it was in the process of this whole change. So I was like having panic attacks 2 or 3 times a week because I had to learn what it was to feel and cope and not just numb and escape. But now I look back on that and I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm grateful that happened, which is crazy to say, but it has brought so many blessings into my world, and it has introduced me to things that I would have never known about or been willing to experience without it.
And I think that's such an important part of it is being willing to be open-minded to what's out there. Maybe it doesn't work, maybe it does, but just having the opportunity to kind of step out of the box and just see. And it's like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm already, you know, drowning.
Right.
So what else is there? So
Yeah.
thanks for that.
And I think, as cliche as it is, and as much as we don't want it to be the case, pain, as a program close to my heart says, pain is a spiritual touchstone of growth or progress. You know, we as humans tend not to make changes, alter how we exist, take those steps to grow, unless we're have our feet to the fire with it. And luckily, as I've gone longer and longer without drinking, because it's been 10 years now, which is a miracle.
Yes, it is.
It's incredible. But like my ability to acknowledge that and see it in day-to-day life has become quicker. So I can start to say like, hey, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. A good friend of mine calls it the sandpaper feeling. Like I'm starting to have a little bit of that rub on the inside. And I'm like, oh man, it's time to grow. It's time to step out of my comfort zone and do the next thing for Shannon version 10.0, 11.0, 12.0, wherever we might end up.
Yes, I love that. It's funny that you say that because it's the same as me, you know, and I love that you said a lot of us don't really as humans, it's not natural for us to want to go ahead and be motivated to change unless we're thrown to the fire, unless we're forced to. And you know, I have a similar path where it was like, okay, I've got a divorce. For me, you know, the drinking was probably the main reason for it, you know, not being able to have access to my kids. It was fine. I had a job, I had everything, but it's like I am so grateful that I was kind of forced to do
Yeah.
that change, but really find within myself and want it to be better. And I look back and I would not have changed a thing. I'm so
Yep.
grateful for that.
hmm
So thank
hmm
you. The proof is in the pudding.
And it's weird, right? Because like when you're in it, it feels like the worst thing that could ever happen to you. You're like, oh my.
Oh my gosh. I always say I thought it was the end of the world. I
Yep.
say that all
Yep.
the time.
Yep.
Yes. All
And
right.
you get some space, you get some time when you look back and you're grateful for it all.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about career. So how did that impact your career from then to where we are today?
Yes, huge, right? Huge. So, what was really nice about it all happening at the same time was if anyone's gone through a divorce, almost like a forced, there's could be like a forced rebirth in terms of if you take the time to look at yourself and see what was working or what clearly was not working, you haven't have an opportunity to adjust. And so me starting my business was almost a tangible way to express my personality, identity, self, which is really important at that time because I had been with this man for 10 years since I was 20 to 29. Um, and I had a lot of my early adulthood wrapped up in that. So it's like, you have to find yourself again. But because I had my own business and I was focused on that, and it actually was like this amazing experience where I got to be the real me for the
Yeah.
first time in probably my entire life. Because also, as I stopped drinking, I had to start learning about who I was. So it impacted everything I did because for the first time I was like learning how not to be afraid to stand up and be like, yep, this is who I am and she's awesome. And if you don't like it, that's okay, but you don't have to be around me, right? And that has just grown the more time I don't drink. And now like, you know, 10 years down the road being 39, holy hell, I'm remarried. I have a daughter. I ran that business for 10 years. It did very, very well. I just sold it about 5 months ago. And through it all, it's like I've become more and more comfortable in my own skin.
Yes.
And and the more comfortable I become in my own skin, the the more I can help other people, the more I can tune in to God, and the more joy I can feel, so that I can like grow my business. We went through probably three or four, I'll call it evolutions when I owned the gym of where I might have tweaked this or changed that or grown this way. And not all of them were popular at the time.
I love that
But
you said that. I hate to interrupt you,
yes,
but
please.
that's what I'm looking for. The good, the bad, and the ugly, because
Yeah.
it's a learning experience. So love that. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, and what happened is like a lot of people got upset with me while I made that change or changes through that decade. It was every like 3 or 4 years, it was time for us to kind of step up the business. And that meant changing how we were operating. And I also had a daughter. I had a daughter through COVID while owning a gym. If you remember, COVID was not a very fun time, much less for people that owned a gym because we were shut down for like 90 days. And then we had masks for like 6 or 8 months. It was a whole thing. And I had a baby on top of that. But because I was rooted in who I was and what was important to me, as a mentor of mine says, values and vision drive every decision. I made those choices to change my model of my business. And what happened is we tripled our profit, and I was able to stay home and take care of my daughter full time for the first 2 years of her life. So, like, yes, it upset people, but it was aligned with what was important for me.
Amen to that. I love circling back to where you were saying that, look, this is who I am, and if you don't like it, you don't have to be around. It's so important because it's not saying, oh, well, I don't like you either. You're not saying that. It's just like, I get it. It's totally fine. You go your path, I go mine.
Mm-hmm.
And you move along and it clears your mind of just obsessing about what other people think of you. You
Yes.
know, it frees everything up to focus on what's really important as opposed to just like a fake narrative that we're almost building
Mm-hmm.
up in our mind that takes up this real estate that doesn't need to be there. And it's free
Mm-hmm.
real estate for the negative. And
Mm-hmm.
so just loving what you're doing for yourself and what works for you is so
Yeah.
important that we all need to hear. So thanks
Yeah.
for that.
And you know, a lot of people spend a lot of time wasting energy and emotions and focusing on things they can't control. If I say you don't have to like me, that's okay. You could have a choice to walk away, but that also does not give you a right to like gossip or badmouth or things like that. But we're human and it happens. And so then I had the opportunity to continue to grow and not kind of absorb that or go down a dark hole with it and just say, go back to my roots and say, I know I'm doing what's best for me. And as a result, I can sleep at night.
And as a mentor of mine, that has really helped me stay on the path of me versus me is it's none of my business what anyone says about me. But at the same time, I don't want to flatter myself. They're probably not talking about me. So it's both of those messages have the best outcome for me. And I can
Absolutely.
just move forward. I love that.
Absolutely. And I have to say, like, I just have to mention my ego hates the fact that it's none of my business.
Yeah. We're human, right?
Like,
That's a
right.
lifelong project for me. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, for me, it's
Yeah.
practice.
And it can still take me practice, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean it's none of my business? It's about me. Wait, right? And bottom line is, you're right, it's not. So, why spend energy and time and emotions on things that I have zero control over? Um, I'm about halfway through Mel Robbins' new book, Let Them.
Love her. Let them. Let them. And I feel like she just like popped on the surface or something because I'm just now hearing about her. And all of my friends are like, have you heard about her? It's your mentality. She probably practices better than me. I'm, still faking it till I make it, but I'm telling you, I'm a lot better than I was before. And
Amen.
she is like, I
Amen.
love her. Yeah.
You want to know the secret is we're all just faking it till we make it. So it's not just you.
We are all just faking it till we make it.
Yep.
And isn't
Yep.
there something about knowing that I'm not alone in that belief? There's something really miraculous that happens when you're just like, oh, it's not just me. You feel the same. Oh, okay. There's just some kind of peace in that. And the fact
Yes.
that we're sharing it, you want
Yes.
to be better for it. So as long as we have that intention at the end of the day, then it can only get better, right?
Yeah. I mean that's something that was so powerful for me when I stopped drinking is I started to be around more and more people that had stopped as well. And it was so weird because like they were talking and sharing things about how they were feeling and how they were thinking. And it wasn't really about drinking at all. It was all about their own personal dialogue and critic and, you know, issues that they struggle with. And in my head, I kept going, holy hell, you think that way too? Wait, like you've had that thought also? I literally believed I was the only one experiencing what I was experiencing, which I think is partly why I had this like white picket fence, look perfect on the outside, grind so everyone thinks that you're happy and complete because I didn't want people to know that I had no idea what I was doing and I was drowning. But once you learn that really everyone just doing the best that we can, and we're all just like kids still trying to figure it out. Like my mom's 70, she'll be 71 in July, but she's never been 71 before. So she doesn't know how to live that way, right? She's still figuring it out. Um, I think it takes some pressure off and then also allows us to have compassion and empathy for other people too.
I love that. And so with that in mind, we're shifting now to, okay, Shannon sells the gym. And if you don't mind, before we move on to
Yeah.
where you are now, would you say it was a success? Like, financially knowing all you know at the end of the day, you felt financially, mentally, everything that was right for you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
safe to
for sure.
say.
It was a hard choice to make. Um, because part of it, like I loved my staff, I loved my members, um, I loved that whole chapter of my life, and I had identity wrapped up in it, right? Because
Mm,
remember, I got divorced, I quit drinking, and I opened the gym at the same time. So I've never had a part of my life where I wasn't drinking and not owning the gym. So it's just like it was all kind of wrapped up in one. What tends to happen in my life, what I've found, especially when I've started to pay attention in the last decade, is that I'll have a still small voice speak in my head and in my heart about an idea, a thing I should do next. And normally it scares the crap out of me. I can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. That will never work. What will they think of me? X, Y, and Z. But the thing is that voice never really stops. It kind of just keeps coming up. And as I've stayed sober one day at a time, I've learned that voice is God for me, is my God speaking to me. And I've learned by following it. I've learned by fight first of all by fighting against it. Let's be fair.
oh,
I'll be
100%.
right. I'll fight it, but it doesn't go away. And then trial and error over the last decade, I've learned that when I follow it, everything ends up better than I could have imagined. It's happened with work more than once. It's happened in my marriage. It's happened just over and over again. So that still small voice popped up saying, hey, it's time to move on. And I was like, nope, you're wrong. There's no way. What will I do? Who will I be? What will they think of me? And it was probably for like 2 weeks that it kept kind of popping up, and I just shut it down and didn't talk to people too much about it. And so if you kids, if you have a girl at all, you've watched and listened to Frozen, a small child, more than you probably have anything else. And this is what exactly was happening to me is my daughter got into Frozen 2, and her favorite song still is this whole time period for me was Into the Unknown. And it's all about taking a risk and stepping out and, you know, all it I heard was move on from the gym. It's time. Like every time she played that song, I felt like that voice was beating me over the head. And like we're talking like 10 times a day, typically is what my daughter, she still does listen to it. And so I started to say, I don't think this is going anywhere. Maybe I should listen to it. And I started to bring it up to my network, to my mentor. And then I was like, okay, Lord, if this is your will, I'll follow it. And I'm just going to take the steps as if and see what happens. Because I've also learned that if I take those steps and things happen smoothly, easily, without me forcing much, it's meant to be. If it feels like I'm grinding, I'm pushing, I've got my will shoved into it, it's not meant to be. And so, sure enough, from the time that voice popped into my head to the time the gym sold was 4 months. That was it for everything from like start to close was 4 months. And that's because things happened very smoothly. They all kind of fell into place and things occurred in ways that I could have never dreamt of. And so that was my higher power talking to me saying, "Yep, this is exactly where you should be," which gave me faith to take those steps.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that is just for me, I needed to hear that. I'm actually going through, I have a pasta sauce business, and there's
Yeah.
so many things that are out of my control that I'm realizing. And I've been in it for about 14 years. And for me, it's a hobby, it's not my bread and butter. So it should not affect me if I stay in the business or not, as it should. But when I hear you and your story and how hard it was for you to transition, and it's more because of the identity part,
Yeah.
it helps people like me to say, let go.
Mm,
And I don't know if I will, but I know that by following these steps, that the answer will come. And
yeah.
I don't want to say regret it. Yeah, yeah. I won't leave with regrets because that voice is still here. And I and I'll get there, but we need more of that. We need to hear more of those stories to share because
Hmm.
sometimes we think, oh my gosh, it's just us. And that's my ego too, because it's
Yeah.
pasta sauce. It's me cooking. So it's my hands, it's everything. So I really appreciate that feedback and input and hearing that it's not me that's like pushing everything. It's just listening to that voice that, maybe it's not me talking that just keeps popping up. It's something above. And I
Yeah.
like that. I
Yeah.
mean,
And that's hard, right? And I still struggle with identifying where's my highest power's voice and what's my voice or my fear or my doubt,
yes.
right? And it takes practice and it takes willingness and it takes action. So again, like for me, what I've found is if it's my higher power, things work out very smoothly. If it's me, it gets messy real quick.
Oh, 100%. I think that's a lot of people's story. It's just
Mm,
a matter of recognizing it, right?
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about what Shannon's doing next.
Yeah. So, through this whole process, there's been a lot of awareness, growth. I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. I have a daughter now. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I'm also a mentor for two mastermind groups. One, I'm a business coach, and one, I'm a sales mentor. So I help people learn how to do sales well and feel authentic with it because sales can get a bad name and be slimy. Um, but through it all, there's a thread of I like to help people, you know? And one of the things that's happened since I become a mom is I'm aware of like what superheroes moms are. Moms are rock stars. And in my opinion, they don't get enough credit for all that they do and all that they take on and handle. And um, I've had a ton of clients in the past, and I have my clients right now that I work with that, they wake up after having kids 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and they're like, who am I? They're like, how did I get here? And I want to change and find myself again, but the thought of taking that on is overwhelming. Where do I even start? Because I'm kind of just treading water as it is, and if you put something more on top of me, I'm just going to sink. And so through the whole process of COVID, having a child, a business, all of that, I had to identify for myself the exact same thing. How do I do this all and not completely lose myself in the process? And the fact that I was able to work full time, run my gym, make it double profitable, and take care of my kid, I learned some systems, processes, and tools through that now I want to share because I think it's so important that us women talk about this because people don't until almost it's too late until they're kind of in the dark pain cave, which we can of course pull them out of, but if they don't have to get into that cave to start with, it's it's a better place, right? So I am now working on few different programs and systems and tools as well to help working moms not lose their identity in the day-to-day grind. And
So
so I
is that
have,
the whole woman reset?
yeah. So
Did my
whole woman
homework?
reset. Yes, I love it. Excellent. So I do one-on-one coaching with clients where we work for 6 to 12 months, and I take them through my whole process. We go through values, vision, time management, stress, health, sleep, like we do it all, and they have someone there that's walking it with them, and they have each other as well to be like a sounding board with, to know that one, you're not alone. Two, a lot of people are here. And three, like what worked for Jane might work for Sarah, and so that they can help each other. And then I've also been in the process of actually creating products that people can buy. I just launched my 30-day stress reset program, which is a simple course that you get in your inbox once a day for 30 days. And it takes less than 5 minutes, but it helps you rewire your system so that you can get out of this fight or flight response that actually so many of us live in, which is why we feel this tension and this stress and this anxiety and I need to take a breath. And so I have that out. I've got some more products that coming out too that people can purchase, and then I have my one-on-one coaching that I do as well.
I mean, this is what we all need, right? And this is ideal. I told Shannon, I said, eventually I'm going to be reaching out about this because this is something that I do need. I'm going back to what you were saying about staying true to your authentic self
Yeah,
will help grow your successes. And
absolutely.
yeah, that's why I started this podcast because I didn't go into it with the purpose of making money. I did it because I realized that when I do these connective
Hmm.
conversations, when I'm done, it's like yoga. When I walk away for the rest of the day,
Yeah.
there's a lightness that comes off me
Hmm.
because I just had this miraculous one-on-one with somebody that is very similar to my mentality, but also we have an intention to be better. And if we just have a conversation about that, how I can shift that. Now, with that in mind, I'm still working full time. That brings me a lot of unwanted stress. And I
Yep.
can have all the 12 steps, I can have all this stuff, but there's still things that we can improve on. And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm saying if I eventually, if this does work, I would love to see this succeed and maybe do some kind of shifting. And that's why I think your program can really help people kind of maybe just get that confidence, if not for
Yeah.
nothing, to take that
Yeah.
next step.
For sure.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about your set protocol too. Touch on
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in my whole woman reset program, I have something called my set protocol, and it's the foundation of everything. And it stands for self, energy, and time. Because if you talk to any mom, and if you talk to any working mom, these are the three things that she's like, I don't have, and I would desperately love to have, but I have no idea how to get them in a realistic manner. So we first start with self because that's the foundation of everything we do. Is if we don't have a rock solid understanding of who we are, we can't show up the best way possible for the people we care about. And we're really cutting ourselves short because we're not able to express our full potential. So we start with self and we go through values and vision. What vision do you actually have for your life? And it's so funny when I take clients through this because they think if they know that values, that they think they know what they are, and they say, oh, yeah, family and faith and health, and they list out all the ones that we think we should value. And I say, great. Now let's look at how you're spending your time and how we're spending our money, because those two things tell us what we value. They are like examples, point blank in black and white. And so then people say, "Oh man, it's not synced up." And I'm like, "Right, exactly." And this is why you feel the way you do. Because on one side, you know that family is important to you, health's important to you, faith's important to you, but you're not spending any time or resource on these things. And so we kind of, you know, help them restructure it. I give them tools to guide them through that process, and then we build out what they want for their life. The majority of people live in reaction mode. I mean,
Yes.
we wake up and within 2 minutes we pick up this rectangle
Yep.
and we are reacting to emails, to text, to Instagram, instead of saying, here how my day is going to go because here are my top priorities today, and then walking that out. And that simple shift right there, it makes people so much calmer and they get so much more done because now they're dictating their life based off of their values and priorities. So that's kind of how we start this the self aspect. Does that make sense, Darla?
100. Well, because you're speaking to me, so it's so easy to grasp. And you're right. It's almost like you're showing us a way to reveal our true self because we can say all these things and we all do it. I am really guilty. I don't care if I need that management because yes, while else I say those things are so important to me, but I'm not doing the things necessary to put those as a priority. It
Yep.
doesn't mean that I'm lying. I'm just not aligning it properly. There's
Yep.
nothing wrong with that. It's how we respond to doing that. And that's where
Yeah.
you come in and we need help. It's okay to say we need help. That's what got me to
Absolutely.
where I am in the first place. I
Yes,
finally asked for help.
exactly. And that's what I mean. Like we go through our life thinking it's not okay to ask for help. It's like everyone needs help. We're not meant to live alone. I mean, did you see what happened in COVID when we were all
Uh-huh.
down in quarantine? We went insane. Like we're not meant to live in isolation. We're meant to be in a group to 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 help each other out. And so that takes care of self and then energy. I mean, what mom have you ever heard saying, I don't need any more energy. I'm fine on that. It's like, no, we're straight lining caffeine as much as we can, right? And so I walk them through that. I walk them through sleep. I walk them through nutrition. I walk them through um, workouts, and we look at also how are you wasting energy based off of your day? Because as as females, we have cycles to everything that we do. It's just the way we're wired. And when we start to pay attention when we're high energy versus low, we can start to shift our expectations and shift our schedules to do things that align with those pockets. So for example, most people have the most energy the first half of the day. Everyone goes down after lunch and into the nighttime, right? So it would make more sense to do emails in the afternoon than it would the first thing in the day because you have more energy to go do creative work that makes you more income, like the stuff that moves your life needle. But if you swip,
That is brilliant.
but if you switch it, now mindless work put first, that's reactionary, it sucks the life out of you. And I will also give you a hint. You're someone out there that says, well, my emails could never wait till afternoon. You're someone that needs to do that because you'd be shocked how many times things get resolved by the time you get to them. Everything is urgent. Everything is on fire. But if someone has to wait an hour, two, God forbid, three, it's shocking what they can figure out on their own.
It's funny you say that because my one of the agencies that I work for, we just developed well, not me. I don't develop platforms. I don't even know what that means. But there's a new platform that we have to shift to. And same thing, in the morning, I typed up an email and I'm like, it is not compliant with my computer, blah, blah, blah. But then I kind of held on to it because my thinking now, old Darla would have been like, I can't do it. Help me out. But I'm like, well, let me try to figure this out on my own.
There you
That's
go.
one less email that that supervisor has to do with. Think about me not sending it, that person not
Yep.
sending it, that person not sending it. If we all could get on the same playing field, but for me, I just have to stay in my little hula hoop and say,
Right.
well, do I need to do that? And I held off, and God forbid, I learned how to do something on the computer. And
Good
I
job.
less of a headache for my
Yep.
supervisor to take time out, to set
Yep.
up a Zoom meeting, to walk me through it, share my screen, blah. And so it's little things like that. And we're so quick to be like, well, it can't, or I can't help it, or all
Yep.
this other stuff. And it's like, but
Yep.
can you? But can you? Just
And
take a
that actually brings up a fantastic point that I forgot we do in this as well is boundaries. And energy, we talk about boundaries and what they actually are and how you can implement them and not have the guilt that everyone's like, whoa, if I set a boundary, then I'm a bad mom or I'm a bad wife. And I actually take people through more so when we do time, but how much their time is worth on an hourly basis. So when we look at time, again, we go through your week and we say what's working, what's not. What do we have control over that we can shift? Because sometimes there are certain things that we can't change. Like I can't change what time soccer practice is, right? But maybe I can change what time I reply to work emails, for example. And so then we start to look at energy levels and where we can switch our tasks. We start to look at start and end times, and we start to look at how much our time is actually worth because you can never get your time back. To me, it's the most valuable resource we have because it's gone. Like I can make more money. I can buy a new house. I can get a new car. I can never get my daughter's third birthday back. And time like slips through our fingers, which is why it breaks my heart when I see people that wake up 5 or 10 years and they're like, where the hell did I go? Because that time was there, it's happened, but now it's gone. And so I walk them through how much their time is worth on an hourly basis, but based off of income. And then I walk them through how, when you start to apply that to the task that you do across your entire life, so tasks being laundry, kid drop off, kid pick up, dog walking, cooking, cleaning, all of this stuff that we do. And then I say, all right, your time is worth this much per hour. That task is worth that much per hour. So you're wasting 35 bucks because let's say your time is worth that, which by the way, it's much more than that. But that task could get done at 20. So if you now pay someone to do that task, you're making 15 bucks and now you can go put that time back into things that one, make you more income or two, recharge you so that you don't lose your identity in yourself.
so many women need to hear that. And men, like I don't want to keep this,
Yeah,
just for
fair.
us, but yeah, especially, and I'll say, my children's dad, like he's doing a lot of the stuff on his own, business owner. And if
Yep.
we can just spread the love of this knowledge that is so simple, but Shannon, we know we complicate it, don't we?
Oh
All
my
the time.
gosh. All the time. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
No, it's simple. It doesn't mean it's easy. I love that. But having these conversations is so important about that. And then also, I love that you always mention the showing up part. Showing up is so important. And if you could just expand on that a little bit in all things that we do, I guess.
Yeah. So I think it's very common and normal with as many distractions as we have these days. Like, this is horrible, but the average person's attention span is 7 seconds long. Okay.
Really, some I would argue that some are less.
Yeah, average person, right? A goldfish, their attention span is 9 seconds.
What?
Again, because of these devices that we carry in our pockets, right? So if you ever stop and people watch, if you have to stand in line, how long are you standing in line before you reach for your phone? I bet
Oh,
next time if you go and count, stand there, one Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi, four Mississippi, five Mississippi, six Mississippi, seven Mississippi. I bet you picked up your phone by then.
I'm going to be paying attention now. You watch like for now, and everyone that watches this is going to be like sending me a message saying it took me 7 seconds. I know
Right.
it. This is, I
Exactly,
mean,
right?
the awareness is so key.
So that's kind of our default. And so if we have to show up and like be present in body and mind, that means we have to stay focused on where we're at, like where our 2 feet are. And I have a 4-year-old and she is my top priority. And so when I pick her up at school from preschool at 3 o'clock, I want to be focused on her. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I've got work stuff in my head, or I'm tired, or like life happens, right? We all have lives. And all of us have been wired to pick up that phone to escape, to numb. I think the self-talk is, I just need a quick break. I just need a breath. And like somehow we think like scrolling on Instagram is going to give us a break, which it does the actually opposite, and it will increase your stress. It's been shown to. And like I found that with myself, that like I would be at the playground with her and I'd be like, I just want a break from being mom for 10 seconds. So I would start to scroll. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like I've purposely made my life this way so I can spend every afternoon with her after school, and here I am scrolling on Instagram. Like that does not align with values, right? So, example, like I have an app on my phone that blocks from 3 o'clock to 7 p.m. I cannot access. It's locked down. I cannot access
I need
Instagram,
that.
Facebook, WhatsApp, email, because those are the four things that like will tend to pull me away. It can't get to them. It's not possible. And so now like I don't have a choice, and that's what I want because that's the kind of person, the kind of mom I want to be. And if I'm not there quite yet, that's okay. But like I don't want to just rely on my self willpower because I'm human, and at times I'm going to have a bad day. So I have to have a system in place to kind of safeguard that.
Oh, that is brilliant. I love that. Well, Shannon, we are winding down. You've given us so much wonderful information. Before we go, there's two more things I wanted to just ask you. One thing is if you could just give us the information and I can just like enter it too after we do this, but where can we find your journey and maybe like if we're interested in being coached,
Absolutely.
if you could give us that information.
Great. So first, you can find me on Instagram, Coach Shannon, Shannon, Logan, Logan. You can also find me on my website, coachshannonlogan.com. I have a podcast launching April 1st coming out. It's called Your Thrive Era. So you can find me on Spotify, iTunes, all of that kind of stuff. And feel free to email me, Shannon at coachshannonlogan.com. I would love to hear from you. I do a where I send out awesome tips, tricks, hacks, and just tons of tools to help you slow down and be okay with it.
That is amazing. That is so brilliant. And one more thing I wanted to touch on your Facebook or social media in general.
Social.
You were say that just and we can just scratch the surface that one thing that really it like just helped you get to where you are today is following the 12 steps. Now,
Absolutely.
for someone like me that is in recovery as an alcoholic, I am very fortunate. I have different tools for me that I use. But for the general audience, if that's not something that they are, and that's fine, because for me, I believe the 12 steps is for everyone if you really encompass it. What kind of resources can you think of? I mean, for me, I think you can just look on Google for guides and stuff like that. But is there anything else you might want to just touch on for that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm with you personally. I think the 12 steps can benefit every single person. And that's actually what I've done in my woman reset is I've taken the 12 steps and adapted them
Wow.
to what we do because there's so much self-identity that comes from it. There's growth that comes from it that I think they're really, really powerful. I forget how many different organizations have adapted them, but it's hundreds now.
Oh,
Yeah, there's hundreds.
I will do that research and put it up
Yeah,
there.
there's I mean, and it's not just addiction based, but like there's CDA, codependence, there's a ton. And my is to kind of if you're struggling with something, it could be spending, it could be drinking, it could be food, it could be stress, it could be sexuality, it could be a ton of things. 12 steps can help you, and there are other people that are also walking that same path.
A hundred
Um,
percent. That's the most important thing to know is that you're
yeah.
not alone.
Yeah, so the church I go to, I'm a strong Christian, and they actually have something called CR, which is Celebrate Recovery, where
Very
they've
familiar
taken
with
the
that.
12 steps and it Christian standpoint, and that's a great resource because you don't have to qualify as an alcoholic, a drug addict, a spending addict. Like they just apply it to day-to-day life as well, which is why it's so powerful. But there are programs like that across country that don't have to be faith-based. I would that you don't try to do it by yourself, that you get someone that's walked
Right.
the 12 steps because some of them are emotionally challenging at times,
Yes.
and you want
Yes.
someone to walk you through it to let you know like you're doing a great job and it's going to be okay. And so that you can walk through those hardships and not kind of beat yourself up through it.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. That's why I was saying, well, for me, I'm very fortunate because
Yeah,
I'm in this. I found my people that I go through it with. I've never done the steps by myself. Yes, I've been given my homework and that's me. I'm not saying everybody else has to do that, but I have to do it with someone because you can get inside your head with it
yeah,
if you're doing it alone. So definitely don't
absolutely.
recommend that. Well,
Absolutely.
Shannon, this has been one of, I mean, the best experiences. Like I said, like when I teach yoga or if I do yoga, the true yoga starts when I walk away from the studio. And that's how this feels. Like this has been so therapeutic for me. And I hope the audience can really get something, if not for nothing. Please check her out, Coach Shannon Logan. She's an amazing person all around. And I'm just so grateful for having you. And I really appreciate
Oh,
you.
thank you. The feeling's quite well, and I'm grateful to be here today. So thank you so much. That's it for today's episode. If this hit home for you, don't just let it be another thing you hear. Take action. And the best way to start? Download my free masterclass, The High Achieving Woman's Escape Plan. 3 steps to reclaim your time, energy, and self. In this exclusive session, I'll show you exactly how to save over 5 hours a week, stop burnout in its tracks, and live in alignment with the real you. Click the link in the show notes and grab it now. And if you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Until next time, keep thriving.